Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm writing to if shit, fat chit Ananda is everywhere. How do you explain a problem of evil? Swami Ananda. So, Vedantic explanation for suffering. Oops, it looks like I messed up my little thing over here. Hold on. And there we go. Perfect. There goes evil right there. I didn't even realize that. But anyways, I thought this was pretty interesting. If Oh my gosh, I know they said this many times, I can't remember the phrasing, but essentially bliss is being one of them, Ananda, I believe. Man. But how do you explain evil in the world or suffering? So let's go ahead and hear what he has to say.
This is from Vishal from Goa, India. Swamiji, when you talk about the realization of oneness while talking about consciousness in Advaita Vedanta, I assume you are strictly talking about the positive, blissful aspects related to the feelings of oneness or being one with the whole of life and humanity. How do you explain the deviant behaviors, oftentimes criminal and evil tendencies of humanity, and the problem of evil within the realm of consciousness? Is there any effective remedy or solution to the problem of evil in Advaita Vedanta?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing her pronunciations of Advaita Vedanta, but then again, I think I sound weird when I say that. Anyways, um, interestingly enough, this was actually there's another video that I reacted to, which was Lakhani's video about evil. I can't remember the title, but it's related to this one, evil in the world as well. I remember someone making a comment on there, like, we can't easily explain it. That's just bad behavior from the past, like survival. There are just genuinely, seemingly at least to us, evil acts in the world where it's done without cause, without provocation, without real and real need. It's not a survival thing. Not as easily as Lakhani would like us to think. I mean, I thought about it, and there's a few instances, of course, we can see that happen throughout the world. But it's really hard to explain something because it is a very complicated matter and could potentially be explained that way. I don't know for sure. We would definitely have to ask Lakhani in terms of his point of view. How do you explain, say, I guess someone like, Hitler or Mao or Stalin, or just even the small fries that just do it just for sheer hatred or evilness, And I guess we'll hear what Swami here has to say. Honestly, I did not realize that it just popped up. I was like, oh, Chit Ananda, everywhere. How do you explain the problem of evil? Or actually, it's just the suffering part. That's what I saw. I didn't read that, the description of the title. And now realizing it's kind of linked to what Lakani has to say, I wonder what Swami here has to say.
All right. This is a classic question which every religion has to face. The problem of evil. Because every religion, whether theistic or non-theistic, especially the theistic religions talk about a perfect being, God. All powerful and perfect and good and kind and compassionate. But that does not sort of match up with the experience of the world that we have. There's a lot of suffering in the world, a lot of terrible stuff which goes on in the world. And not all of it can be cured. See, when the cat catches a mouse, it's natural. But yet the mouse suffers. There's no way you can stop that from happening. Even if you make a perfect human world, if you remove all kinds, everybody becomes a good person and does the best to be good. Still, you can't remove natural suffering in the world. So, this is the question. Why would God create a universe like this, where there is enormous amounts of incurable natural suffering, plus also awful people who keep on adding more suffering than is necessary in this world? There's human evil that's created. And us, we also create a lot of mess for ourselves and for others. We create suffering for ourselves and for others. So why would God create such a world? This is called the problem of evil. Now, before I go into that, an observation about what he said at the beginning. He said that when you talk about oneness in Advaita Vedanta, I assume you're talking about the positive feelings of oneness and bliss and happiness and all of that. No. When Advaita talks about oneness, the oneness is not just a positive feeling. It's metaphysical, it's ontological. Advaita Vedanta makes the claim, we are really one. It's not just we feel one. It's not a nice feeling. We are actually one. And that's what Advaita Vedanta wants to demonstrate. And based on that reality, you begin to have the feelings of oneness, you sense this oneness. It's not an imagination. It's not a good thought. A universal brotherhood, a universal sisterhood. Okay, good. But it's not like that. It's an absolute reality, metaphysical, ontological reality. That's what Advaita Vedanta claims. All right. Be that as it may, how does Advaita Vedanta, how would it respond to the problem of evil? Now, this is one topic I can hold forth at length. I won't. I'll just tell you about this book, which I've mentioned many times, The Problem of Evil in Indian Thought, Professor Arthur Herman. He was a professor of Indian philosophy at the University of Hawaii. Very great authority on Indian philosophy. He wrote this book in which he considers this problem. If God exists, why is there so much suffering in this universe? What are the answers? And every religion has tried to give an answer. He has collected the answers from all the religions, philosophies, literature, and he has got a list of 24 answers. 24 answers. You might say, wow, so there is an answer, not one answer, 24. Why 24? Because none of them are very satisfactory. Yeah.
Okay, real quick, I paused it earlier because I think I've heard this before. And I have a feeling it's one of the longer versions of a video where he did Q&A. So anyways, it's an excerpt of that, I suppose. And anyways, it's still pretty relevant considering the Lakhana video, so this will be a refresher. I think I remember hearing this before.
Example. I'll give you 3 or 4 quick examples. And you will see that you have come across these answers at one time or the other. Why is there suffering? Why would God permit suffering? Well, suffering makes you strong. It's character building. So that's a character building answer. You might say, well, in some cases it makes you strong. But a baby is born and suffers and dies out of starvation or malaria or something like that. How did it make the baby strong? You can also argue. If that same example, the cat catches the mouse and the mouse suffers terribly before dying, how did the mouse become strong? So you can always doubt this. Then another example is, this is the most perfect world. You are saying there's a lot of suffering, but any other possible world would have much more suffering. So this is the least possible suffering, so the answer is the best the God could do. So it's a very it's a very underperforming God. He would get laid off, furloughed from a job very soon in Manhattan. And get laid off very soon. So these are different answers. They have some grain of truth in each of them. A lot of it can be doubted. So what is the answer from the Hindu perspective? Professor Herman says that among all these answers, the most convincing answer is the karma theory. Why is there so much suffering? Because of causality. There are certain causes which are given rise to these conditions. There are certain causes which have given rise to these effects. Actions have consequences. So there is a strict causality which karma gives rise to this kind of a world, mixed world of suffering and pleasure and pain. It's not God's fault. God has created this environment and then we go through this. What is the specific Advaita answer to this? The Advaita Vedanta answer is, evil is caused by ignorance. So our ignorance of what we are and what the world is, that has led to this kind of suffering. And if you want to go beyond suffering, you can. Everybody can. You realize what you are, what the world is, that it is one limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, you will go beyond suffering. To answer it, take it head on, this question. Advaita Vedanta perspective is the suffering is not ultimately real. It's not denying that we are experiencing suffering, but it's more like a nightmare. In nightmare, you do suffer. It can be quite suffocating, it can be, and then you wake up out of it, gasping and scared and your heart pounding, and then you realize, oh, it was just a bad dream. Now, how did that help that suffering? The suffering was there, but the recognition of the falsity of those circumstances freed you from that suffering. In Sanskrit, mithyatva nishchaya, that this world is an appearance in consciousness, you as consciousness are safe. You as pure being are safe. Ultimately, it's okay. Not you as that individual person. See, here's the thing. People say that, oh, so if I'm spiritual, then I'll be saved from suffering. That's your promise? Yes. But how? And there's a person who was going to undergo an operation, a serious operation, goes to the Swami. Swami, bless me. If I have this operation coming up. And the Swami said, pray to God, you'll be fine. And this man said, okay, so if I pray to God, I won't die? The Swami said, no, that's not what I mean. Even if you die, you'll be fine. And he means it in absolute seriousness. You as Atman or Brahman, the body has died so many times. We've had so many bodies which have come and go. In our real nature is Atman and Brahman, which is absolutely clear here, evident here. There is no problem at all from that perspective. From the body's perspective, there's always a problem. There's always the sickness and pain and inevitable death. So that's how it takes you beyond suffering. All right. Now, look it up, that book, if you want multiple answers, how people have thought about this problem of evil throughout the centuries, millennia. Problem of evil in Indian thought, Arthur Herman. One thing I would like to mention before I go ahead, what's the real response? Whether it's Advaita or any other form of Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, whatever, or an atheist. What's the first line of response? We always say in New York, first responder. The first response is to help. I was looking at the annual report of the Ramakrishna Math and Mission, our organization, parent organization in India. When I looked at that, I thought this is the answer to the question, what is the response of Vedanta to the problem of evil? The response of Vedanta to the problem of evil, the first response, the first responder is the thousands of dispensaries, hospitals, schools, colleges, the relief activities, going and standing next to a person who is suffering from famine or flood or earthquake or fire and extending a helping hand to feed the hungry, to provide medical treatment to the sick, to provide treatment to the sick, medical help to the sick, to teach, to provide education to the illiterate. Yeah. Vivekananda said, my God the poor, my God the sick, my God the starving, my God the wicked. So I am going to worship God in these ways, to feed the hungry man, to clothe the person without clothes, to give education to the one who has no opportunity for education, to give medicines to the sick person. That's the first response to the problem of evil. Then the philosophical response comes later. That's not. Why shouldn't that be enough? That will not be enough because you'll never ever solve anything deeply that way.
I do wonder though, I know this is a saying that I've heard many times. You cannot help those who do not wish to be helped. So an example would be someone who absolutely refuses, Can you, what do you do then? Do you continue to just push and try to help that person even though they utterly refuse to? Oh no, I can see sometimes that working, being persistent and helping a person in need. Eventually you'll break through their barrier, but then there are some people out there who are genuine in their terms of not wanting help at all, and them being potentially dangerous towards you and anyone else for that matter.
The question will still remain. After all efforts, more or less the suffering continues in the world. So you need a deep spiritual solution also. But that comes next. First, help. One young man came to Vivekananda in India and said, Swami, I close all the doors and windows of my room and sit and meditate and meditate and meditate, but I have no peace of mind. Vivekananda said, open the doors and windows of your room. Go out into the world. There is the starving man, the sick person. Go out and pour out your life in service of God in the form of suffering humanity. You will get peace of mind. Another person, young man like that, there was a lot of sickness at that time, the plague. And he said, how can I get peace of mind? The Swami Vivekananda, he said, you go out and serve the people who are in front of you, actually suffering. Go out and help. And it doesn't work always, because that young man said, but if I get infected, I'll die. And Vivekananda said, there is no hope for that's a hopeless case. I want to be spiritual, but I don't want to give up anything at all of no.
Hmm. I mean, do the best you can in being safe, taking proper precautions, of course. I mean, but then again, this was back in the day where, a lot of the medical safety stuff has come up fairly recently, like just like amazingly washing your hands is a marvel miracle back in the medical days. It's really interesting how much of preventative measure you're taking by just merely washing your hand with soap and water properly, by the way. Not just doing it and just rinsing right away. You have to kind of really scrub in there for a couple of seconds to make sure that it really does grab everything, or from my understanding, destroying the fat bubbles of the germs and detaching it and killing it essentially, or at the very least loosening it up so that it'll be washed away. So the explanation, I don't know if he really spoke so much on evil, but suffering he did for sure. Don't get me wrong, he said the answer was ignorance, but seems very overly simplistic. But maybe it is a simplistic answer. I mean, I did say, understanding Advaita Vedanta is genuinely simplistic. It's really easy. It's just very difficult to achieve. I mean, it's all it is just realizing your true self. That's all it is. But how do you do that? How do you achieve that? How do you actually realize your true self? That's the difficult part. But if you can just realize your true self, then it's just as simple as that. Laughing because it is very, very simple, yet very, very difficult. But I don't know. Talks about karma, and that seems to be one of the explanations. At least, yeah, one of the explanations. And the other is ignorance. Ignorance of our true self. I understand it from that perspective, from Advaita Vedanta. When we realize our true selves, we do not wish to cause harm. But how do you explain it from karma's perspective? I mean, I guess I could see it in karma's perspective. Something that Lakhani has said about, I believe he was going to visit like some friends in India. I don't remember the story exactly, so I'm making an assumption here. But the story goes roughly along these lines. Either he was visiting a friend, or someone was visiting a friend, or a story or something. I can't remember. But anyways, this person was visiting a friend, and there's a bunch of poor children begging for money. And whenever he went up to the friend's gate, the children came up and put their hands out. And the guy was like, no, shoo, go away, and closed the gate behind his friend, and to close the gate on the children. And I think it was Lakhani that it was this person that went to visit the friend, and he was telling him how he missed the point. He kind of asked his friends like, "Why are you doing that?" It's like, "Well, I've been good in my past life. That's the reason why I'm fortunate now." And the reason why those children are where they're at is because they were bad in their past life. Evil, bad, something along those lines. So he's choosing to let the kids suffer because that's what they deserve, because of their past life. Because this is what they, well, in a sense, deserve from what they did in the past life. I just repeated myself. But yeah, it's what they deserve because of what they did in their past life. But Lakhani said that essentially it's that you missed the point. Just because you have a fortunate life and that they deserve what they got doesn't mean you stop being a good person. Essentially, it's something along those lines where it doesn't matter what people deserve, what you do is what matters. If you ignore a person who is in need, you are, in a sense, generating bad karma for yourself. But if you help a person in need, even though they deserve what they've got, but you still be a good person, you are generating good karma. It's essentially kind of the story that I think he's trying to say. Again, not trying to put words in his mouth, but I do believe that's what he's trying to say. So, anyways, so in terms of what Lakhani has to say, or sorry, I'm trying not to put words in his mouth. In terms of how I understand what Lakhani has said in that particular video, it seems like these people that are evil are, you could in some sense say that they're, how do I say, like hired by karma to exact evil in the world for those who have been bad, because under the assumption of karma, we deserve what we get, whether it be good or bad. So if someone comes, to us, to you or someone, that's what they deserve, right? At least in terms of karma. Let me know. Let me know if I understood that correctly. At least as far as karma is concerned, because we get what we deserve, right? Karma is all also how you handle the situation as well. I mean, I remember Swami Ananda talking about just bad things that happens in your life, but you can navigate these bad things to still have a better outcome. But some of those bad things could be like a car accident, which could, you know, which there's no navigation of that. That's just it. Or someone causing that. So let me know. So that's my reaction to if Chit Ananda is everywhere. How do we explain the problem of evil? If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up the sound down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.